we're now into the first OR. So we're going to move this little shit over here. And then we're going to bring... I can't get a much better angle than this, unfortunately. I'm using a slightly smaller tripod because the other one's unfortunately engaged and set up for a different game. So I'm just using this one as a kind of a bit of a dirty... what's the word? Kind of playing fast and loose. That's what we're playing. So the first thing that happens in an operating round before anyone takes any actions is the privates will pay. So I'll just take the income for those. So that just goes straight to the players because the players own all of the privates at the moment. And so we've set priority as player 4 for the following stock round. Okay, and in the first era in yellow, in phase 1 or phase 0, whatever you want to call it, before we've got to phase 2. So phase 1, it is a so in phase 1, what was I saying? Okay, so we're in the stock round. We've paid our privates out, and in the first stock round, while we're in phase 1, we only get 1 stock round per round, and then once we've paid the privates, we then move on to the public companies. I might call them majors because they're sometimes called majors in other, but just be aware that just means the public companies, and you always go from higher share price, which is at this end, to lower share price, which is this end. And so that's going to be the IO. Okay, and so the IO goes through some specific actions in order. And this is very, very similar to most 18xx games. And so the first thing you do is you lay your track tile. Now in phase 1, you can only do yellow. You can only do yellow tiles, and so it's really the So a slight correction. There's not supposed to be a drop here. That's a different style of game. But then we'll move on to the operating rounds, and the first thing we do, we can lay new tiles, or we can upgrade tiles. We can then place tokens. We then operate trains. We then pay dividends, or withhold, and then we can buy trains. Okay. And then until when we get into phase 2, which is the green phase. It should actually be called phase 3, because that's really when you're buying in the 3 trains. You have got you can then start purchasing the private companies. So let's talk about the IO. So the IO is going to lay his track. He's on Matsuyama, and he's hopefully going to be buying a 2 train very shortly. So I think he's going to want to connect these two so he can connect and get some revenue. Now, when you are laying tiles, you obviously must choose a tile that is relevant for the space. This is a city tile, so you need a city space. This one is in a is a straight, but it could have been a curve. You can curve in such a way that you ignore the offboard, but you can't ever have a something that goes off into off the board. And so he's going to do it this way. And the kind of the thinking behind this is he's got the private that reserves this tile, so he's going to work his way that way as well. Okay. And so then because he can upgrade that as soon as the greens are available. And so he's then going to purchase. Actually, sorry, he's going to do something slightly different. He's going to pick up this tile here. So he's changed it so it's a much sharper turn, and so he's going to try and pick up these two here, because this one's going to take him a little bit longer because he needs a 3 train. So he does that. That's a free lay because there's no cost printed on the board. Then he could lay a station token. He only has 1 extra, and that would cost him $40. And he actually has to be connected to a city that's not blocked. It's not blocking him, and so he can't at the moment. And nor would he want to place one here necessarily. You then operate your train. He doesn't have a train, so he can't do that. He would then pay dividends. Now, when you're paying dividends, or when you're kind of dealing with your income, you have 2 choices in 1889. You can either pay in full, which means you divide it up between all the shareholders, 10% each per share, or you withhold, which means the company gets all of it, but then the shareholders are unhappy. Now, when you can't earn, you are considered to be withholding, and so you will go back 1 dot on the share, and that is all shown up here. Okay, and that will be true of any time you withhold. So once you've paid your dividends or not, you then get the opportunity to purchase a train. Now, purchasing a train is mandatory. The train limit per company is currently 4. And I think what he will do is he will buy two trains. He's tempted to actually buy 3. Because actually only one other company will... Yeah, he's going to buy 3. And so that's going to be $240. The reason he's not going to buy 4, to help you understand, is that means he's stuck with 4. He can't buy a 5th train, even if it gets rid of some of the trains he's already got. He will be a sitting duck in that sense. He will just have to wait until somebody else does it. And having the initiative is a very powerful tool in this game. So he spent 240, 3 times 8, 3 times 80, and so he gets 60 change. 60 change there. And so I've just put the trains on to his charter over there. I'm keeping the charters up there so you can kind of see them, hopefully, and that'll be interesting. So he didn't need to buy the 3rd 2 train, but what he's doing is he's trying to put pressure on the other companies because there's now only 3 2 trains left before then we're into the greens. Okay, because he's trying to rush that. And we'll see how successfully he manages that. The player 2 is going to act on behalf of the Takamatsu. And so what this guy will do is... Now there are cities, which are the white dots, and there are some towns, which are these green dots. Now the towns on the outside are the special ferry boat town, but the ones in the middle, I should say the one in the middle, is just a normal town. The seaboat ones can be built as if they were normal towns as well. But what he will do is I think he's going to spend $80. Okay, so it's quite a lot. And he's going to build here, like this. Okay, it sounds a bit crazy, but it'll make sense in a little while. And then he's going to buy 3 2 trains as well. Okay. No, he's going to buy 2 2 trains. And the reason he's buying 2 is the other company wants to buy a 3. And so by leaving a 2 there, it means he can't then start the next phase very easily. Okay, and so that's going to be $160. Controlling the how the trains rust is a very important decision in this game. Because as new trains come out, old trains then become obsolete and they will just vanish. Okay. We then will go on to, so that was the end of the stock round. So obviously these guys can't pay, so they should have gone back one. And then we then move back to the stock round with the priority being player 4. Okay, so player 4, who's got 50, 60, 70, he's got $75. And so the par for the IO is still out of his reach. He can't actually buy any because they're not available, but he does like the look of this cheap Takamatsu, who is coming in at 60 when he would have to pay 70 for it. So he's going to buy that for 60. Okay. And then player 1, who's only got $35, is just going to pass. Player 2 has got he's got 75, so for $70 he's going to buy another a Takamatsu. Okay. And players, to remind you, players can own 60% of a company, and so player 1 and player 2 both own 40% at the moment. And then player 3, who's got, so he's got 60. So unless he wants to sell something, which is possible, he might just hang fire on what he's doing. The player 4 has no more money, so passes. So currently priority is with player 3 because player 2 acted. Player 1 is not got any money, and player 2's only got $5. So we'll pass, that will be the end of the stock round, and player 3 has priority. We then move on to, we then move on, but before we do, we then evaluate sold out companies. So if they're sold out, they will rise. And then we will have the operating round. And so the operating round, first of all, the privates will pay out. Okay, so now that was the privates paying out, and now we've got the IO who can run, and the IO will run another tight city this way. No, I think he will run a straight this way. Okay, because what I think he's going to try and do is try and get a bigger loop around this island, and so he's done that. He could lay a token, but I don't think he wants to, and then he can run trains. Now trains have to run between a minimum of 2 cities or town and a city, 2 locations. It doesn't matter how long the route is, just it has to be a minimum of 2. the as trains will run along track, they can't, that track can't then be reused. If it is track that is separate, clearly separate, like this one, you can run along those two separately. If it's track that is conjoined, so there is no gap, this can't be run in both directions. Okay, so just be careful of that. And then when you're running trains, you count up the revenue. And so I'm running a 2 train between these 2 stops, which is $40. And I'll just move up on the chart with that so I don't forget. And then between these 2 stops, which is $50. And so you add them together. So 2 trains have hit this city, but that's not a problem. They can meet at cities, they just can't use the same line. Okay, so he's got so he's earned $90, and he will pay that out in full. And so 9 by 4 is 36. So 36. $36 there. And then he will get $9 because he's got 1 share. We've got one with $18. And we've then got one with $27. Okay. And because it's paid in full, it will go to the right. Okay, so it's paid out money, it will then go to the right. He could actually now buy a train, but again, he's not going to, because he wants to wait for the 3s. So he's going to hold on to he's going to hold back because he doesn't want to get himself train locked. Okay, now we move on to the Takamatsu Kotohira electrical rail, and though this guy will lay a tile this way, and so you can now see he's connecting these 2 to Takamatsu, and so he will then run two trains, and that will be for 50 and 50. So that'll be for $10 a share, so he gets 40. That's 40. Okay. Okay, and that means he will then rise as well. Okay. And this is interesting because on his next round, he could build a way this way and try and make it to Kotohira. The Kotohira will give him an extra $40, but it would then allow the other company to then buy into greens, which will help him eventually because he'll get to upgrade the Takamatsu. So it's tricky whether to know whether you should you've stalled him for 1 turn, but then you buy now when it's at your advantage, or will it be better to continue to stall, because obviously you are earning more. So the fact that you're earning $1 more per share, I think, is actually worth more. So I think he's going to hold on and not buy, because he doesn't want to give the IO a better revenue. Okay, so that was the operating round. We're then back to the stock round. And then the priority was with player 3. So player 3 has $117 and can buy a Takamatsu for 70. Takamatsu for 70. Okay. And then we've got player 4 who's got 35. Also, sorry, 58. Sorry, or 53 in fact. So he's going to just hang on. He could sell some shares potentially, because he would make quite a lot of money actually, because he bought these for 80 and he'd be selling them for 100, so that's actually quite good. Because then he could potentially start his own company, because I think he's going to be fairly weak unless he starts something. So I think player 4 will do that. So he's going to sell both of his IO shares. So that makes him $200. And you can sell any number of shares. So he gets $200. And that will then drop. So you get the money for the value at what price it was, but then it will drop by the number of shares sold. Okay. And then, so that would be $250. So he still hasn't got enough to start a company really, because he could. I mean, there's likely other players will buy into the company, but he needs a minimum of 325 to start his own company, and he's got 250. So what he might do is sell his 2 Takamatsu as well, which will be fairly interesting move. Okay, so that's 2 Takamatsu as well. So that's going to be 2 times 65, so 130. So 130. So this is fairly aggressive play here, because he's not only tanking other people's shares, but he's also completely liquidating his assets. And then what he will then do is buy into a company, and I think he will start the Brown company here, the Uwa Jimmy. Okay, and he's got 383. Okay, and so he's then going to spend 150 of that. To par this at 75, okay? So he's parring at 75. It's then player 1, who's just had some of his IO made available to him, so he's happy about that. And he's also just been made cheaper, so he's not very happy about that, but it allows him to be able to buy, which is nice. And so he's then going to purchase one of an IO. And player 2 will also, so player 2 has got 50, 60, 70. So she could actually purchase one of her Takamatsus, which I think she will do for 55. That's fairly painfully low, but it does mean she can pick up these for fairly cheap. And then player 3 will, so player 3's got $47, and is now behind because she should have probably sold all of her stock portfolio actually, considering it, and then because she will still break even if she sells hers now, so she will have only made the one lot of dividend. But if she was to break even, she would end up with 240, 50, 60, 75. And so that's still too small to par. So what I think she will do is now starts to invest again. But she can't afford any, so she might sell Takamatsu, which will be 55, 65, 75, and buy into the new company. The problem is Takamatsu is actually earning revenue, whereas the new company won't be for at least one operating round. So I think she's just going to pass. I think she's just going to take priority if she's the last one, if the first one to pass in the round, I should say. At least following somebody else's action. Player 4 will then buy another for 75. That's going to be the brown. And then player 1, who's got 16, will then pass, so he will get priority because he's the first to pass after somebody took an action. Player 2 will pass, player 3 has already passed, player 4 will take another. And then we'll go around again, so actually it takes that one there. And he ends up with 2 more. So he's going to be up to 50%. And then he will also pass. Okay. And so he's up to 50%. And then the brown company will be able to float at 750. So I'll just get that. So 7 and then 50. Okay, so we're on share tracker. And then the privates, so then we move it, we end the stock round. So end of stock round processes happen. No one is sold out because these are now here, so no one rises. And then so no one rises, and then we move on to operating round where privates will pay. So I've got $25 here, $20, $35, and $20. We then will go by operating order, so it'll be the IO first, and the IO is going to build a curved city up this way, so Nihama. Going this way, like that, and then we'll run 2 of its 3 trains for the same value as before, so 9 per share. He's now got 50, so he gets 45. And this will rise. He still gets, he's only got 1, so he'll get 9. He's got 3, so he's going to get 27. So 27, and the player 4 no longer owns any, so won't be doing anything like that. He will then. He doesn't want to buy that 2, so he's just going to hold on. But he does know that the Uwajima will be buying that 2 if no one else does, because he has to. Then it's going to be the Uwajima, And so the Uejima is first of all going to be able to lay tiles. And so that means he can lay a straight this way. He will then attempt to run trains but can't because he's got no trains. And so he moves backwards because he can't pay. And then he gets the opportunity to buy trains. So he's going to buy the 2 and a 3 train. Okay, so we're now going to move it up here. We're now in phase 3. So green tiles can be upgraded. And this is going to be $260. Okay, so 260, and that's $40 change. There we go, back into the company. And then I suppose the question is whether the Uejima buys a second railroad. So it's not a second railroad, a second train, a second 3 train to try and put the pressure on. So I think he might do that. He doesn't really have anywhere for it to run though, that's the only problem. So it would be purely to start messing with people. But he does know that Uzu is going to be opening up fairly soon. Okay. And so then he's just going to hang fire with that one. I've then got the Takamatsu Chikotohiri electric rail. And now he's got a choice. He could upgrade a tile or he could place a tile because we're now into greens. So the upgrade cost for Takamatsu looks like 0. And he has to have, only the owner of this private company can lay a tile in Takamatsu. So he's got that card. So this allows him to lay a tile in Takamatsu. Okay. But Takamatsu, oh no, that's just the card, that's the name of the, okay, so that's for free. And it has to go in a certain way. But it does increase his revenue to 120. And so he's going to have that there. So he's got 2 2s, and so he's going to be up to 120 per share. So $60 to this player. And then 12 to you. So okay, so that's 12 a share. Oh, sorry, I forgot the when a company has shares here, okay, the money goes into the company. So the IO should have got at least $9 this round. That's the IOs up here. And the Takamatsu will have got $12 into will have got $12 into the company over here. Okay. And so that's the advantage of having shares in your corporation. So even though we are in green, we don't get a second operating round until the start of the next set of operating rounds. The Takamatsu will also buy a 3 train. So that's there. So we just bought a 3 train, and then so that's the end of the operating round. So we'll go up because he's paid out, and then we will have another stock round, and now we're into the full game in that sense. Ooh. So, hold on one second. It's still it's still the Takamatsu's turn. So during the Takamatsu's turn, he will do something though. So he's going to buy this, okay, and so he's going to have, that's going to be part of this company's portfolio. So the company can get that revenue and use this ability, okay. Yeah, you can just about see that. The other thing is the company obviously is going to be paying the player, and they can pay between 25, a half, to 1.5 times the par value. So I think in this case, the company will be paying 75 for it. Okay, and that's mainly so I have more money to buy shares with, and I might better start a second company if I do it this way. Okay, so because I have player 2, I should say, has 300, not 300, sorry, 175 plus some loose change.